Okay, we are in section 2.6 where we are solving using multiplication or division. So in section 2.5, we talked about equations with addition and subtraction. This is very similar, but this is when we are given a coefficient with our variable. As we recall, coefficient is a number that is attached to the variable. So we have to do again the inverse operation in order to meet our goal, which is to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. So the example that we show here in the first page here is an example of the inverse operation of multiplying 5 by a number, which will equal 15 here. So it's 15 times x equals 15. In order to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign, we have to divide both sides by 5, which then cancels out the 5 on the left-hand side, and then it's just 15 divided by 5, which we know is 3. So then we know that it's x equals 3. Okay? So this operation we just showed you was an example of the division property of inequality. Dividing each side of an equation by the same number produces an equivalent equation. So again, it's just being able to divide both sides by that same number, by that coefficient, and then it equals 3. Same thing goes for this example. If I were to get my variable on one side of the equal sign by itself, I must divide it by the coefficient, which is negative 3. So I'm left with x here, and I'm left with negative 18. No, I'm not. Wait a minute, that's not right. What is 20, was it 36? Sorry, this is negative 12. I'm sorry. My bad. Okay. The next step in this is the multiplication property of equality. When you're multiplying each side of an equation by the same number, and it produces equivalent equations. So if the variable is you're dividing a number by a value, which in this case you're taking x and dividing it by 3, in order to cancel out this, you must multiply by its reciprocal, which is 3. So this cancels this out, which becomes x equals a negative 75. There's always a way of checking your answers when it's dealing with these problems. If you get an answer such as x equals negative 75, what you do is you plug it back into the original equation. So I'm going to say, oh, negative 75, which is x, divide that by 3. Does that equal a negative 25? If it checks out, that means your x is correct. So you can just check that off. So there really is no excuse for not knowing the correct answer if you can perform the correct operation. So looking here, let's solve the following. So we just did this one here, so we're going to go multiply by 3, cancels out here, x equals a negative 75. Now I have 3x equals 18, which means I'm multiplying 3 by x. So if I want to get rid of this, I have to divide 3 to both sides, which cancels this out, which leaves me with x equals 6. For Negative 3 equals z over 6 plus 11. First thing I have to do is take negative 3 and equals z, and I have to add these two values together, which gives me 17. 17, so it's z divided by 17, so that means I get to multiply 17 to both sides, and 17 multiplied by a negative 3 gives me a negative 51 equals z. Probably the most complex one that we have here is the last example, because we got 4x minus 5 equals 23. So here we're going to be using both lessons in order to solve this problem. So when you come across something that involves both addition or subtraction and multiplication or division, the first thing you're going to do is take care of the addition or subtraction first. So here I have the minus 5, so to cancel this out I have to add 5 to both sides, which then gives me 4x on the left hand side, which then equals 23 plus 5, which is 28. And then I'm left with the same thing as I had in previous examples. So now I have to divide both sides by 4, which then gives me x equals 7. And if you're not sure if it's 7, please plug it back into the original equation. For this story problem, it says a high-speed rail service connects London, Paris, and Brussels. One of the high-speed trains travels about 233 miles from London to Brussels at a speed of about 87 miles per hour. How long does it take? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use some variables to help us solve this equation. I'm sure you're all familiar with the distance equals rate times time equation. So what they're giving us is they're giving us the distance. They're telling us that it's 233 miles away. And so it equals the rate. They told us the rate that it's 87 miles per hour. And what they want to know is how long does it take, so that's going to be denoted by t, which is time. So what we have to do now is to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign, I have to divide both sides by 87. So that cancels this out, so then this becomes t over here, and it equals about 2.68 hours. Okay. This last problem here is they're giving us a figure, and we want to simplify the expression in terms of x for the area of the figure. Well, we don't really have a specific formula for this one figure, but we do have formulas for sections of it. So if you look at this here in my written in green, this is the shape of a triangle. And we know that the area of a triangle equals 1/2 base times the height. And here in blue, this is a rectangle. I know that the area of a rectangle is length times width. So what I can do is find the area of the triangle and add it to the area of the rectangle to find the area of our figure. So doing that, so it's going to be area of the triangle plus area of the rectangle to help us find it. So first off, I'm going to try to find the area of the rectangle. So the area of the rectangle is 1/2 base times height, so it's 1/2, and the base. So the base is right here. And I know that that distance is x, so I can say the base is x, and then I multiply it by its height, which is 10, plus the area of the rectangle, which is length times width, which is the length is x and the width is 4. So now I just use order of operation to help me solve it. So now I'm going to say, well, 1/2 times x times 10, that's all one operation. So I can say that this is 5x plus 4x. And are these things like terms? Yes, they are. So I can combine these to be 9x. And that is being able to solve equations by using multiplication or division. Hope this helps. Until next time.